it released a new Doom game. Doom Eternal? Wow, this actually looks really good. Oh my god, this game fucking sucks, the gameplay is awful, the music is bad, and overall this game just makes me want to fucking kill myself.
Take a look at the shittiest Doom Eternal review I think I've ever seen, but before we do, allow me to tell you what I think of the game. Doom Eternal is a masterpiece that capitalizes perfectly on what makes the series so memorable. The gameplay, the mechanics, the music, it's all amazing. This brings us to this video. Oh boy, this is pathetic, and I can only imagine how bad this is gonna get.
TLDW, the game is overdone and poorly balanced. If you're on the fence about this, just replay Doom 2016 and wait for a sale. Okay, now that all the people who are just gonna dislike and leave have been sated, let's have a big boy talk.
Don't you ever speak to me like that again, you little shit.
Doom 2016 is a genuine masterpiece of game design, and having it be both a hardcore experience and a fun time simultaneously. Doom Eternal is labeled as a masterpiece on Steam thanks to id Software and Bethesda's marketing teams knowing how to conduct the hype train straight into pre-order station.
Guys, we really gotta stop throwing this word around, especially when the game in question hasn't even been released yet. Dipshit. Screenshot behind this basic bitch text shows that the game has mostly positive reviews on Steam, and games can only be reviewed after release, so stop it.
Doom Eternal is a good lesson in success being the worst teacher. It's a good game, but since the predecessor was immaculate, id Software had no idea what to work on or improve, and ended up putting their efforts into places where everything was already just right the way it was, and therefore now it's all overdone.
You're gonna love how he says id didn't know what to improve on when they improved on literally everything from the last game. Classic enemy designs, new mechanics, better glory kills. I want to believe this guy is trolling, I really do. But he seems so dead set on the idea that Doom Eternal is a failure when compared to Doom 2016, which, if you have even a half of a brain cell, you would know is nothing more than a pathetic fallacy.
Oh, and real quick, I know I said one of my upcoming videos was meant to kick a hornet's nest. This is not it. In fact, I have to go back and rewrite certain portions of that video now that I've played Doom Eternal. I had no advanced access to this game, and if anything, the video that's intended to be a real fire starter is going to have to come out a bit later, but I think I'll have the time. I look forward to all the lovely DMs I'm going to get between these two videos, which, by the way, did you know this channel has a Discord that's open to anyone?
Nobody cares.
Perhaps we wanted this hashtag masterpiece so badly that we willingly looked past a bunch of red flags that were clear, present, and even brought up by a few people who were shouted down. The first red flag was that all the early trailers were bullshot. In fact, I learned that the term for a pre-rendered cinematic designed to try and fool a viewer into thinking that it was a real person playing the game in real time was called bullshot from id Software getting caught doing just that during the first E3 gameplay trailer.
I looked far and wide across the magical land of YouTube, and not once could I find anything similar to what this text here is talking about. The closest thing I saw to that was the first encounter with the Archvile, where the Slayer whips out the Crucible and charges after him. Nothing regarding the Super Shotgun, though.
Remember when E3 was a thing? The second red flag was the delay and the later admission that the team had already been crunching for most of the year. Nothing good comes from extended period of crunch, no matter what that new person in HR says. Lastly, and I hate to say it, but YouTubers and media outlets not unlike myself were a part of the problem. If you look at all the media leading up to Doom Eternal's launch, everything was either a softball interview, or worse, the content was done right inside of the spider's parlor, so to speak.
What? What does that even mean?
A lot of the YouTube videos showing off gameplay pre-release were admittedly done right inside of the studio with admissions that the devs were looking over the shoulders as the YouTubers played. Additionally, a lot of that content from the videos almost reads like ad copy, hitting all the talking points that someone in marketing would want a paid actor for a commercial to say. But that's not to say that the people who went out to id Software to get their early gameplay footage for videos were being paid to say nice things.
Right, let's forget that Markiplier and Jacksepticeye both played it early in their houses, and that was when the game was pretty much finished.
However, I'm sure that everyone would certainly like to be invited back to their studios for more exclusive pre-release video content recording sessions when Doom 3 2 Doom Guy goes to Universal Studios to get his movie rights back.
Just an FYI, id Software had absolutely nothing to do with that godforsaken abomination of a film.
Now, this isn't to say that Doom Eternal is awful. It's just not the amazing savior of our quarantine boredom that we thought thought it would be. If anything, I'd like to get maybe 7 of the 14 hours it took me to get through this back so I can get about 2/3 of the way through another playthrough of Resident Evil 4, but you can't really exchange time like that. People certainly like it, and it's not on the same level as, say, The Outer Worlds or some other big disappointment.
The Outer Worlds actually wasn't that big of a disappointment. In fact, the game is huge and it's still really popular.
Alright, let's start out with the ripping and the tearing, which is to say the core gameplay. The combat, it feels akin to getting too drunk when you're young and still learning the limits of liquor consumption, which has happened to all of us, let's be honest. It feels really awesome at first for like an hour or so, but after a while you get extremely disoriented and confused and you're starting to feel bad and you end up having a not so good time.
Oh no, there's not nearly enough death animations for the Doomslayer like I was expecting based on my time playing Doom 2016, and therefore I'm contractually obligated to give this game a big old thumbs down the booty cheeks. Can't believe I really spent $60 on this shit. Jesus Christ, dude, if you want to go complain about a shit game, go complain about Postal 3.
You're somehow overstimulated and you have dulled senses at the same time, and I attribute this to how there's just too many enemies in the arenas at any given time once you're out of the early game.
First of all, I think it'd be better to attribute how many enemies there are to the fucking difficulty you're playing on, because to me, considering I beat the game on ultraviolence, this looks like ultraviolence, and speaking from experience, it's probably not the best choice for beginners. Second of all, the combat doesn't get boring at all. Sure, it can be tedious sometimes, but sick, it's boring is really pathetic.
How can you tell that this is the case? Well, for one, there are at times so many monsters in the arenas that you can effectively make it your strategy to position yourself between low-level enemies and the stuff that's actually supposed to be a threat, because they won't actually attack through each other. Enemies will like patiently go around one another.
Because that's just how the AI works in Doom Eternal.
There's so much stuff going on that you can't focus on any one thing long enough to deal with it, and you're constantly getting broadsided by demons thanks to there being so many of them and so many more constantly spawning that you can't keep track of them all. Much stuff going on that you can't focus. Stuff going on that you can't focus. Stuff going on.
Notice how he just stands there and lets himself take damage to try and push his agenda that you're apparently as helpless as a Syrian refugee waking up on the casting couch.
There's other problems caused by how much stuff is in at any given encounter, but we'll get to that in just a moment. In the meantime, we've got the same repetitive combat and the two big whys, maybe a third big why, and then we've got to talk about how this game is what's called Nintendo hard. So what is Nintendo hard? Well, it refers to a kind of difficulty that was used by a lot of old Nintendo games in the late 80s and early 90s, where games were made to be very hard, not so much to provide a challenge, but to make it to where they could drag a game with maybe a couple hours of content over 10, maybe 11 or 12 hours of playtime. This was less about a lack of creativity or laziness, but more about how, at the time, storage space on NES cartridges was measured in the kilobytes, and the SNES could get up to a little over 14 megs if you are feeling extremely ambitious. You either had to make your games very grindy or very hard if you wanted to leave your customers satisfied with what they dropped $50 of 1985 money on for one of your company's games.
I don't know if it ever occurred to you, bud, but Doom Eternal is a difficulty setting, and the only NES game I can remember having one was Mega Man 2.
Doom Eternal is 42 gigabytes unpacked and does not have an excuse for all the crap that it does. Exhibit A of Nintendo Hard, the Marauder.
God fucking damn it, I knew this twat waffle was gonna bring up the Marauder. Okay, real talk, right? The Marauder, yes, it's a difficult enemy, don't get me wrong, but the way I see it, it's a means of making sure the player doesn't get too cocky about their elite skills.
The Marauder is meant to be a mini-boss and one of the demons made specifically to deal with Doom Guy. This would be okay if, like the other anti-Slayer demons, he played fair.
That's it. He mentions the whole Nintendo hard thing a couple dozen more times, which, by the way, this isn't even a Nintendo game, so you have no reason to bring it up. Whines about how this video was depressing to make, then tells you to butt-fuck the monkey-fisting like button to encourage his pathetically apathetic gaming videos. That's all I have to say, man. Like, subscribe, comment, follow me on Twitter, whatever. Join me the Discord server. I've been recording this way too many fucking times to make sure I don't fuck up the microphone quality. I'm gonna go take a shit. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.